Over the past couple of weeks, something incredibly interesting has happened in the social media content space. Steven Crowder, one of the largest names in right-wing media, I guess you could argue, has basically been over the past couple of weeks, something very interesting has happened in the media space, particularly the conservative media space. If you don't know Steven Crowder, he runs a channel called Louder with Crowder. And in that channel, he actively describes himself as a conservative commentator, and he is one of the most popular conservative commentators on the planet, having 6 million subscribers. Recently, he was offered a deal by the Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's conservative media company. This is a company that does $200 million in revenue per year, so it's a very successful company, and they figured out a pretty strong model in terms of bringing up hosts, giving them a lot of money up front, and then making a lot of money off the advertising that they can sell from that talent. They have Candace Owens, Jordan Peterson, Matt Knowles. They have a ton of different people that create content for the Daily Wire. They offered Steven Crowder $50 million on a 4-year contract with a 2-year, $25 million extension to produce content for the Daily Wire. Now, this isn't necessarily controversial. This is how media companies work. If you're CNBC or you're CBS or even Netflix, you need to get talent, and you are paying that talent an upfront amount of money. It's the same way a record label works. It's the same way basketball contracts and sports contracts works. You pay the talent an upfront amount of money, guarantee them that they're going to get this money as long as they perform, and you make more money than you are paying them, and that's how you run a profitable business, at least in the social media, talent, sports type of content area. Now, what's so interesting about this is Steven Crowder basically said that he thought this $50 million was not enough to justify his worth. And granted, he has 6 million subscribers. He's very influential. So one could argue that 50 million potentially is underpaying. I don't think it's the worst amount of money for a contract, but one could argue that he's worth more. But more importantly, he made a video calling out the Daily Wire, basically saying that one of the terms in the contract said that if you get suspended by YouTube or Facebook or whatever other platform you're posting on, then you will have a 25% reduction in the amount that you are paid from this $50 million. Now, objectively, I think this is a standard term in a contract. If I pay you money and you say something that is so crazy that the social media platforms have to ban you, well, then we're not making any money off you. You're not getting the exposure we need from you to justify the $50 million plus the marketing budget we're spending on you. So as a result of that, you will take a penalty. That's just standard business at the end of the day. I completely agree with the Daily Wire here, which is just like, hey, this is how business works. This is how contracts are. And Steven Crowder took it differently. He took it in the respect of, no, it's not about contracts. It's about the type of enforcement that is out of my control because big tech might censor something I say. And as a result of big tech censoring something I say, I basically have no control over getting paid, because if I say something and I get censored, then I don't make any money. I think there's 2 points of analysis here that are incredibly important to understand. Number one, it's like, yeah, big tech censors you and you don't make the money, then I don't think the Daily Wire should care. They're like, hey, if you can't make the money because you got censored, we can't make the money off you. So literally taking all the conservatism, all the leftism, taking everything out of this question, it's basic business. If you can't perform because you pissed off whoever, I don't care who you pissed off. You pissed them off. I can't make any money off you. You can't perform. You're not going to get paid. That's pretty simple to me. Now, the deeper point of analysis here is Steven's point about censorship and about how social media platforms tend to censor particular viewpoints, and in his argument, right-wing viewpoints that don't have the ability to then get mainstream distribution. There's a couple of things here that I would argue, and sort of the point that I want to have is twofold. Number one, Steven Crowder has a lot of distribution on social media. I mean, just look at the views of his YouTube videos. The YouTube videos are like 600, 700, 500, 800,000 views. I mean, like, even if the algorithm is trying to quote unquote censor you, the amount of distribution you're getting is far more than most people on the planet, just because your audience is that loyal and they choose to continuously watch you. So like, that's one argument. But second, I think it brings up a broader point that Steven's talking about, which is that there are 4 billion people on the internet. And there are really 4 or 5 platforms that those 4 billion people can use to express themselves. You've got Instagram, you've got Facebook. Facebook owns Instagram, by the way, and it's a content hub in certain demographics. Like, I know a lot of people in India watch videos there, but in other places it's just horrible for distribution. You've got YouTube, which is great, but it's kind of the only place on the planet to upload your video and get distribution. It's kind of like a monopoly. And then you've got TikTok, and TikTok has a lot of different issues with it. I personally think it's a pretty strong tool for distribution, but obviously there's a lot of different issues with that platform. And then maybe you throw LinkedIn there. I mean, Well, Snapchat's probably not going to do it for you. Twitter, you can throw in there. Twitter's great for distribution, but it's not, you can't make a living off that platform. So, I mean, really, you've got YouTube at the end of the day, if you really want to express yourself, and then you got a couple of other platforms that kind of help you get some momentum. 4 billion people for 4 platforms, to me, is unsustainable. And the reason it's unsustainable is not only because the tech companies can't handle that much content, just in terms of the diverse viewpoints they may try to censor, or the lack of enforcement they're going to really have, and like you get a lot of crappy AI stuff doing horrible things to different people. But more importantly, those platforms get crowded. Now, the opportunity is that there's a ton of different there's a ton of opportunity because there's so many people consuming on those platforms that if you post something, people have a chance of seeing it. The downside is that everyone's posting something. So the competition is immense. And this is what we saw with TikTok. In 2019, when no one was really posting on TikTok, TikTok exploded and gave people a new celebrity, a new life, a new chance to access fame, simply because those people were posting there first. And I think the question that when it comes to social media is, are there going to be new platforms that are able to generate the massive level of network effects that the big guys have been able to generate? Because if there are, then those platforms will offer more diverse perspectives, and it will force the bigger tech platforms to not be able to censor. Do I agree with the Daily Wire that at the end of the day, yeah, if you get banned, then we can't pay you? 100%, because it's business. What I don't necessarily like is the fact that you could get censored, or more importantly, you could get censored and then lose your entire access for an audience because there's only 4 platforms that control the means of distribution. Now, I'm a huge fan of YouTube. I mean, YouTube has given me more opportunity than I could ever imagine. And I personally think that YouTube allows so much content that if you did get censored, it's probably for something that honestly, like, you got so extreme that they had no choice, simply because they have advertisers. Even if I don't fully agree with the nature of their decision, they have advertisers. Like, it's still a business. They have to protect the platform. There's a reason you can't upload things like adult content, you know what I'm talking about, on YouTube. That's just not the nature of the platform. So I think in terms of censorship, they haven't done as much as people think. Have they done it 100%? Has it been so egregious where perspectives are like literally never allowed on YouTube? I don't think that's the case. What I do think is that it is crowded. There's 500 hours of video uploaded a minute on this platform. And so if you are a creator looking for distribution, if you are a commentator trying to get your voice out there into the world, when you have 500 hours of video uploaded per minute, it is incredibly complicated. It is incredibly difficult to get in front of audiences and give people the chance to see you. And as a result of that, my take here on the Steven Crowder Daily Wire feud is, number one, I think Daily Wire is right because it's pure business. But number two, I think there is a point that we need to have more platforms, more diversity of views, more perspectives, more abilities for platforms to have there should be 10 platforms that have 1 billion users each, not 4. And if there were, all 10 of those platforms would be competing with each other to create even better features for us as the users. Now, one may argue it's not possible for 10 platforms to get 1 billion users. I disagree. I think those platforms just haven't been created yet. I think those platforms just haven't actually been able to get out into the world. I think there's not been enough courageous founders that have tried. Yes, many have tried, many have failed, but I do think there are good ideas in certain niches that have the ability to get massive scale, particularly if they create discovery. If everyone in the world feels like they have a chance to get discovered on that platform will win, and it will challenge the big guys, and the big guys will have to capitulate by giving more concessions, and then there will be more diversity of perspectives and views, and we will not be locked down to just 4 or 5 platforms. Now, consumers have to change their behavioral habits to consume on other platforms, but if the content is there, consumers will come. It's a question of, can you get creators to come to those platforms? So that's my take on Steven Crowder versus the Daily Wire. Let me know what your take is. Do you think there needs to be more perspectives? Do you think Steven Crowder is right? Do you think the Daily Wire is right? Let me know. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I will see you in the next one.